Well, welcome to Hamilton County TV. I'm Perry Williams. Alongside me is the new head football coach of the Noblesville Millers, John Hebert. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Perry. Really excited about this.
I'm excited about doing this. To give a little history, you and I spent some time together about 6 or 7 years ago when you were at the other school. Since then, you've won a couple state championships and was runner-up in one. But we're certainly glad that you came here to Noblesville and excited about the program. Talk a little bit about some of the things, because each coach does everything different, okay? And no coaches are alike. I mean, they have same philosophies many times because that's culture, okay? But talk a little bit about some of the things and some of the challenges of playing in the Hoosier Crossroad Conference.
Right. Well, you come into a new program, a program rebuild like this one with a plan in place and try to create a vision for everyone. And that really took place in December and January. And I feel like majority of people, players in particular, and people at the school and people in the community were really on board with that vision. And it involved a lot of hard work, a lot of restructuring and reorganizing, really in the patterns of the programs that are in this great conference, the best conference in the state. So when you're in a conference like the HCC, you don't have to look very far to see what are the common threads really between them, especially the most successful ones. And so we've gotten to work and really tried to build our systems and our structures in place to be really competitive in this environment. We feel like if we can do that, if we can compete with and out-compete, out-perform some of these teams, then we'll be right there in the thick of things. And so we're excited to see just where we are so far, beginning my 9th month and the start of my first season. The challenge is going to be to keep it into perspective where we are with the process, the step by step, and not to put the cart before the horse, and try to measure ourselves in a way that isn't fair or realistic to the young men that are putting in the real hard work. That we've got some things to learn, and but I feel great about our coaching staff and the community at large, and the people so far that have been following us, that we're ready to take this next big step, which is to get into our game schedule and get on the field, learn the big lessons that come with competition.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about the Jamboree last Friday. A little bit about that. Probably everybody that's ever been to a Jamboree, it's very, very structured. We don't show anything on offense and defense. They don't show anything in offense and defense, but you get to hit somebody else besides your own teammates. Talk a little bit about a few things that you might have learned and a few things that you felt like you needed to work on there from that game. Because everything, it's a grind, and so you got to get better every day.
That's right. And the timing of that competition, the scrimmage, is important. It is a step forward, step up from the fall camp, process that everybody's in. And in the summer, we had a couple of different structured scrimmages, multi-team scrimmages, one at Crown Point and one here. So we had seen 6 other teams prior to going against North Central last Friday, but we didn't go into that scrimmage expecting to put extra pressure on ourselves for these types of goals. first downs or yardage or scores or those types of things. Those are, I think, beyond your control a little bit. But we did want to use the opportunity to see how guys performed under the lights, without coaches on the field, and the stepped up nature of the environment. And we did. We found some people that really were up for that occasion, and took what we've been doing in our practices and applied it well and competed well. And there's a handful of guys that they really probably did more to prove themselves in that moment than all the work that we'd seen from them combined. We were talking before we were on camera about a young man named Cody Prater, wide receiver. He's been great all summer and great in everything that we've done. He showed up great on Friday night and was a leader also. And but then there's another player at that position, Nick Morris, who that was his best day. He came in and made a couple of plays, and really has had 3 great practices since that scrimmage. He's really carried that momentum. A handful of guys that in the same boat who I think they did more for their self-confidence than they did as far as proving themselves to the coaching staff or to their teammates. And I feel like that's 3/4 the battle right now that we're waging, which is, I think we're a better team, we're a better outfit than what some of the guys there within might realize. And we're not as far away as some people might think. But that self-confidence is so vital to going out and getting things accomplished, because without it, I'm not sure that you can. And so I thought the scrimmage was really good for that. It exposed mistakes.
Which is what you really want to see. If you're going to make a mistake, let's make it in a jamboree and get it corrected.
That's right. In a setting where we're not scheming to avoid mistakes, we want mistakes, because then we can really, when a guy makes a mistake in front of his home crowd and it's on film and it's a painful moment, you can make a lot of headway with him understanding why then the preparation and the practice habits are so important to get right, and how those lead to less mistakes and more successes. And so as coaches, we're secretly hoping to make mistakes that get exposed. Sometimes in practice you make a mistake, and if you're a defensive back and your coverage isn't right, or you're not playing the technique the right way, or you bite on a fake that you shouldn't have, but the ball isn't on time or the ball isn't thrown, we might not make that mistake if that ball's not caught. And so there were a few of those on Friday night that North Central, they exposed some things that we knew some guys weren't making enough progress on with their development. So I hope that what we've done there is set ourselves up for a better week 1 than we would have had that not happened.
Sure. And I know a lot of people do, but I don't think people realize with a new coach, not only do they have new coaches, but we also have a totally different offense than we've run for the last 5 years. So there's a lot of movable pieces here, and paying attention to detail is very, very important. Let's talk a little bit about Mount Vernon, because last year I know they didn't quite have the season that they hoped to have had, and they were 4-7, I believe, last season. So I know they're getting ready. They want to bounce back. But let's talk a little bit about the Millers and talk a little bit about Mount Vernon and what we'll probably see.
Well, I think they're really well coached, and they've got a good nucleus of guys back. In particular, their quarterback is back. He threw for 1,300 yards last year, ran for 400 or 500 yards. He's a good athlete, baseball player, can throw the ball. I mean, he's really got an arm, and he's got a nice touch. And what we saw in the scrimmage versus Perry Meridian matches what we saw really all last season from him. So we know he's capable of exploiting those mistakes we were talking about earlier and making plays. They're a good offensive football team. And then on defense, the track record for their program is one where they create a lot of confusion with what they do. It's hard, really. Us being new, it's probably hard for them. Our staff is new. It's hard for them. They've got to really do their homework and try to figure out what we're doing. And like you said, we didn't show all that much in the scrimmage. So with that in mind, we didn't really want to provide Mount Vernon with a blueprint for what we are going to do next week. So we're concealing quite a bit, and they've got a veteran group, and I think that they got some things up their sleeve too. So I think as far as the football game goes, there's going to be a lot that's determined in the first quarter that both teams have to adjust to. But I've been telling the team, and as a staff, we've been talking just about the emphasis, and not just in this game, but I think this whole season, the emphasis has got to be more about us and what we do, less about our opponent. Now, we're always going to prepare for our opponent, do everything we can to be on top of what information we can gather from their film and other sources, but less about them, more about us and how we do things and how we react and respond to situations. And because it's all so new, I just think from an educational standpoint, there's just so much to learn that we got to keep it on that, keep it on the process, just like a teacher would do in the classroom, of a step-by-step approach. And I really believe that's the key for us achieving our goals, is to keep it to things that we can measure, that we believe in, are going to lead to our having greater chances for success. And in week one, I just believe it's about playing hard and having a good mindset to the whole thing. You guys, high school football players and coaches, they wait 9 months to get to play another season, and they only get 10 games guaranteed to them. So, and I've not met too many players or coaches that don't love it. So it's such a valuable opportunity to go out and get to play. So let's make the most of it and have a lot of fun with it, and be excited about it, and energizing to your teammates, and not dwelling on the things that don't go so well, getting over those and getting refocused to the next play. I really believe that's going to be a majority of focusing on going into Friday.
Okay. Coach, let's talk a little bit about some of the key players we'll work on, throughout every week, talking about Miller players, because that's what it's all about. It's about the players. But let's talk about some key components of some of the players coming back, and then maybe next week we can hit some more players and do those type of things, and talk about the coaching staff next week and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about this year's 2025 Noblesville Miller football team.
Yeah, so maybe we start on the offense then.
That's fine.
We feel like offensive line is maybe one of our greatest advantages in terms of our personnel. And Mason McDermott is he's the big dog of the unit, 6'7" and 290 pounds, and a returning starter, and gaining a lot of recruiting momentum and exposure, and several offers there, and older brother plays at Louisville, and we think that he's just a weapon for us to create space and move the ball. And then Caleb Johnson is the other returning starter up front, who's very similar in terms of his potential. I think he's a little bit under the radar. I think that that will change. I think he's a major impact player, an all conference level player, all state level player. And so between those two guys at tackle, and Caleb can play center, and he'll play a little bit on the defensive line as well. We just feel like those two really give us a great opportunity to run the football and protect the passer. Jackson Apple would be a third guy I'd mention up front. He's a senior, another really big kid. Mason's 6'7" and Caleb 6'5", and Jackson Apple is 6'6"-ish, 6'5", 6'6".
6'5".
Yeah, and 280 pounds, a wrestler for the Millers. And, the first two guys are throwers on the track team. They're juniors, and then Jackson's a wrestler. So we've got some multi-sport athletes there. And then Noah Schinkel, running back, and Luke Heil, another running back. We think those two guys complement each other well. Both are kind of power runners. Schinkel's a little bigger, over 210 pounds. Heil is not as big, but he's really strong in the weight room and great motor about him, and just tough kid, and a senior also, so it really matters to him. And maybe in a way that a junior might think he has another year, but a senior knows this is it. And then Calvin Moody at tight end, another really big, long kid, 6'6", 225 pounds. Started some games last year as a junior, and he's also got some college programs that are really interested in him. And he's a great asset because he's a really good blocker, but he also catches the ball well and can get yards after the catch. And Cody Prater, mentioned him earlier, just a slot receiver that we can move all around and get him the ball in a variety of ways. Just really tough kid and knows what to do with the ball. That's those guys are they're off to a strong start. We've got the quarterback position. Everybody always wants to know, how that's shaping up, and we've got two guys that are kind of in the mix, and we expect to play them both to a degree. Windsor Hutchins Jr. is going to start the game, and he's had a really good summer, and again, everything's new, so they both have had to learn everything from start to finish, but he has just been really consistent and decision making. And then Woody Corey is just a sophomore. He's in that mix too. He's a bigger kid, 205, 210 pounds, and strong. And he's got a strong arm and some athleticism, can run the ball. So we'll give him opportunities as well, and just kind of see how that develops. I think that's important, is to see how the team responds to each in the game setting. You're never live with your quarterback. All summer long, everybody's being yelled at if they get close to the quarterback, and defensive linemen will go by him, and even if they're close when he's throwing, they're getting yelled at because you don't want something to happen and by accident, and you just don't have very many quarterbacks. You don't want anything to happen to them. I'm pretty sure that's universal. And then they know that everyone's supposed to stay off of them. There's just a little bit of fear there that isn't there until you go live. And in the scrimmage, we weren't live either. So this Friday will be the first time that they've had that in over a year. And so I think in that setting, you really find out maybe a little bit more, maybe most importantly. And then defensively, we have a good group returning as well. Our defense is it's a new defense. It's a new set of priorities and core principles. But defense is also maybe a little bit more universal, and so I think the guys have really picked it up, and we've kept it, relatively simple all spring and all summer, just to hammer home those fundamentals and make sure they understand that we're not going to put our scheme ahead of those fundamentals. And so we've slowly added to the scheme, but I mean, it's more going to be us doing things fundamentally and doing them the right way and being physical and tackling well. So we'll start with the biggest, maybe a couple of playmakers on the defense is Ty Holmes at safety. Last year he started at safety and running back and hardly left the field. And we'll play him some on offense too. You'll see him Friday on offense a little bit each week. We'll add him in there. But he's just he's a special player, special talent. Can do so many things, and he's really smart. Just a football player in every traditional sense of the word. Praise Oladipupo is the other. Started at linebacker, 107 tackles as a sophomore. Both guys were sophomores last year. Now they're juniors. But Praise, we've moved him from an inside linebacker spot to outside. He'll play the field outside linebacker spot. So really, some people would consider that more of a nickel type. In this league, the way the teams are so good at running the football, it's we just look at it a little bit differently than other leagues. But he's physical, he's fast, he's smart, can make plays. He's just a great leader. Both those guys are. So we feel like those two guys are a handful for people to deal with. Aiden Kincaid is another one. Started last year next to Praise inside. He's an elite level wrestler. Probably a Division I wrestler, and 6'2" and long, athletic, just really instinctual, tough kid. He's really picking up the new defense as well. Cale Metzler is a kid that played quite a bit last year. Again, these guys are all juniors, so they were sophomores. Cale's a guy that can play. He will play on the offensive line and defensive line. Again, another wrestler for the Millers. And father is defense coordinator Adam Metzler. So we feel like there's a great nucleus there. Several other guys that have just had great summers and spring, and I hope next week we're talking about all the plays they made in week 1.
Sounds good, Coach. One last thing before we get out of here, talk about specialty teams a little bit, because in this conference, specialty teams are huge.
It probably defines the league as much as the physical play and great coaching and great defense. I mean, there isn't anything really missing in this league. What truly sets it apart from anywhere else in Indiana and probably throughout the Midwest is the special teams play. Every team is so solid in their units, their coverage units, their return units. And then they all seem to have, high-end level kickers and punters and snappers. And we've got some really good players in this realm as well. Caden Lytle, kicker for us. He's really can do a lot of different types of kicking. He'd probably be our primary field goal kicker. Calvin Moody is a guy we just discovered can be a kickoff guy for us. The tight end really can get the ball into the end zone on kickoffs at a high percentage. And then we have another player named Nate Jones, who is a senior, and he's just a talented kicker, punter all the way around. He's a good field goal kicker, good kickoff, also plays linebacker, just a multifaceted guy. What I love about our specialists is that they play other positions. They want to. In fact, I'll try to, all spring and summer trying to get them, isolated doing their specialist assignments, but they want to be in those position drills, and I think that really endears them to the team. I think people view them as being just like
part.
everybody else. Yeah, you know, there's no separatism or anything there. But you know, the real key of it all is to have schemes that are well executed. Your kickoff unit, your punt unit, those two are the most important, in my opinion. They have the most to do with starting field position for your opponent, and you know, the more you give up there, there's the higher percentage that drive's going to turn into points. And so I'd love to tell you that, you know, I just know exactly how that's going to turn out, but we're working on it. We're working on it all the time. Jeremy Hostedler is our special teams coordinator, and he's just a phenomenal coach, and he's just got this amazing outlook on the game, and just really inquisitive and resourceful and great communicator. And so you know, as much as we're putting into our offense and defense, we're doing the same thing with our special teams, because we know in this league, you know, that's how it's done. That's the blueprint.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We'll be doing this show weekly here, and I'm fine with up here in this beautiful press box that we have here at Noblesville, and it's away from everything, so there's not a lot of commotion or bells ringing or
just
anything.
the ice machine.
Yeah,
and,
just the ice machine. But I appreciate it, and good luck at Mount Vernon, and then we'll follow up with Homestead. Go Millers.
Thank you so much, Perry. Go Millers.